Because making anything new requires a fresh way of thinking and seeing. And building that perspective requires repetition. And starting a successful company like PayPal is no exception. But when I set out to read Zero to One, I did not realize I'd be learning a new way to see the world of business. Because in his book, Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal, repeatedly points out that every successful company is built around a collection of secrets. And in order to understand those secrets, it first requires redefining the objectives of a successful business. Otherwise, we wind up crashing and burning. I know because I have the scar tissue to prove it. And so what I'd like to share with you are the core lessons that I've learned from Zero to One. Specifically, the one objective that separates generational companies, because if you can retrain your mind and business to see things the right way, PayPal, Amazon, Apple, Tesla, they all demonstrate that you can consistently develop products and services that create profits and markets. Welcome back, my fellow philosophers for both business and life. Today, we're going to be covering Zero to One and the key lessons that really define the most successful businesses and really, if you think about it, the most successful people. So right out of the gate, we've got to talk about the very first thing. And in his book, Zero to One, this book is about building businesses that create the future. And that's really the premise of this book. This is not about creating the next laundromat. And there are 5 key lessons that I really want to spend some time thinking about and walking everyone through here. So without further ado, let's get into that. At the risk of saying something really obvious and stupid, the lifeblood of business is money. I know, shocker, right? Craig, world-breaking thoughts here. But here's where Peter gets into things a little bit that this book helped me to see is that in economics, the study of economy, there's a spectrum and it's perfect competition on one side where everything is equal and everyone has a fair chance and all the opportunities are available to everybody. And then monopoly on the other side where one company dominates the market. And what most people don't realize is that in order for a company to have access to enough money to make a positive difference in the world and to take care of both their customers and their employees, that means significant profits are needed. And as a result of that, businesses need to design their systems to be monopolies, not competitive. And really quickly, Peter does spend the time acknowledging the fact that in a static world, a monopoly can be a very negative thing. Like if you play the board game Monopoly, where all of the properties are laid out in advance, there's no creating additional properties, nothing changes in that game. And in that kind of environment where the world is static, a monopoly is a very damaging thing. But we do not live in a static world. We do not live in a world that is constantly the same. It's constantly changing. And frankly, it's changing faster and faster every year. And so really what Peter is getting at is that with monopolies, you want to create something so powerful, so valuable, so unique. And as a result, you become the business that people turn to solve their problems day in and day out. And this allows you to capture massive profits. And with those profits comes the opportunity to do good, to actually make a difference in the world. As Google says, to not be evil, right? That's their motto. And they're able to exercise that motto because they capture massive profit share. Now, the second lesson or the second point of this book that I learned from it is that first objective is so restrictive that there just can't be any other objectives. You have to be that good. You have to be that valuable to where you create your own monopoly out of your own market by creating something new. You have to build a company that nobody else is building because you have an idea that is so valuable but also unique to where you create your own market. And that's not an easy thing to do, I'll be honest, speaking from experience. That is something that requires immense thought process. Good luck. And the more that I participate in business, both as an employee and also as somebody looking to start one of my own, the more that I realized this fact. The only way you'll be able to produce a massive profit is by creating massive value. And the only way to actually create massive value is to not be focused on the money, but instead to be focused on the product that delivers value to the end user and to the end customer. Because if you cannot do that, you will not be able to solve people's problems, and therefore you will eventually be beat out by your competition. And that's the backwards part. It's a little counterintuitive. Yes, you have to capture profits. Yes, you have to produce and provide for both your business, your future, and the future of your employees. But if you are not focused on the customer, you will not win. And that's what Steve Jobs was getting at when he said that he was a product person. He was a technology person who designed every part of the user experience so that way it would be to the best of their advantage, to the end user's advantage. But that's what Steve was getting at, is you have to create that kind of product. You have to create something so good for the end user, it creates its own monopoly. And by monopoly, I mean something really powerful and helpful and that solves a problem in a dynamic and changing world, right? So if the first and second principles are really so restrictive, then how do you go about creating the monopoly? And that's the third point that I want to discuss out of this, is really it comes down to something where you have a, for lack of a better term, a 10x improvement. Right? You need something that is 10 times more powerful, so much more discernibly obvious improvement that it transcends everything else around it. And obviously that's not easy. It's what makes the whole thing so challenging. It's what makes it so rewarding as well. And one of the points that Peter makes is that the easiest way to create something that is 1,000% better is to create something new, something that hasn't existed before. And that leads me to my next point, which is that in order to discover these 10x improvements, we need to start looking for things called secrets. Now, secrets, the word is so commonplace in our language. We even hear stories about like how sports teams have a secret weapon or a secret play, or restaurants have like a secret ingredient or a secret sauce. These concepts of secrets become X factors and multipliers that allow teams, organizations, companies, individuals to perform at high levels. And they guard their secrets closely because they know if they got out, then everyone would have the secret and they would lose their competitive advantage. And so we need to be looking for and creating our own secrets. And of course, Peter has an extra layer on top of this. He has a classic kind of trichotomy of things that are easy to understand and discover, things that are taught in school, that were taught by our parents, and that are just kind of universally accepted or easy to discover on our own. And then on the other far extreme, you have mysteries, things that cannot be discovered no matter what, no matter how hard you try. But then in the middle, there's this segment of things that are really hard to understand and grasp, and we have to really study and seek out. And those are secrets, things that can be learned with tremendous effort, but are not just kind of commonly propagated to the knowledge. And of course, over time, secrets get moved into common knowledge because eventually people figure things out. People can reverse engineer new discoveries, which leads to the need for making sure that we're continuously finding more secrets to advance. And Peter's entire book is really founded and kind of even starts with the secrets. I mean, some of the opening lines to chapter 1 is this concept, built around this concept, when he says, whenever I interview someone for a job, I like to ask this question: what important truth do very few people agree with you on? And he talks about how that's a very difficult thing to answer because, one, it's an important truth, but very few people agree with the individual. So you have to find the truth that few people agree with you on. And so that would be a form of a secret. The business version of this question is what valuable company is nobody else building? And that's really what the point of this book is it's to help us discover what are those secrets and then to validate them by asking the right questions to make sure that those secrets are of value to the marketplace. And then the fifth and final point that I really want to spend time going over, there's a million again that I could go over with this, but is the power of community around secrets. And Peter uses the term mafia, go figure, because he's the godfather of the PayPal mafia. And so you need a group of people that you can convince to create a plan to change the world together, to make a massive improvement in the world together. Because it doesn't make sense to work with people you don't like and who are completely disaligned both with your values and with the values of the company that you serve. It's one of the massive problems in productivity for all companies, is that people are not aligned with the secrets and the values and the vision of a company. And because of that, there's no synergy. And that's what makes teams and companies the most powerful. And you see this with professional sports teams. Back when I was coaching basketball on a regular basis, I would consistently show my basketball teams the 2014 San Antonio Spurs, because they were the epitome of this synergistic mafia kind of culture, right? They were in harmony. They had individual roles, individual skill sets, but together they were working towards a collective and common good. And my most powerful basketball teams that I coached were the teams that were able to emulate that. They were teams that cared about each other on and off the court, that spent time together away from the game. They were actually invested in each other all the way through in each part of their lives, and several of them are still best friends. That's what all of us hunger for, is that sense of community. And for the companies that are able to build that, they're able to unlock this discretionary effort because everyone is united and aligned around a common vision and concept and set of secrets. And that leads me to one of the major points of this video, which is that this applies not only to business, but to life, to people, to individuals, because we each have the opportunity as individuals to be monopolies of our own, to bring something of unique value to the world. And the only way we can do that is if we understand and find our own secrets, invest in them, and make ourselves so valuable to both our home, our family, our community, and make a dent in the universe, even if it's a small one. And one of my favorite quotes of all time is by Thelonious Monk, where he says, "A genius is the one who is most like himself." Did I get that right? Pretty close. A genius is the one most like himself. And so my invitation to every single one of you, whether you're building a business or not, is to become a monopoly. As an individual, provide that unique, innovative insight that only you can do, and stop trying to copy to be somebody else. And if you like content like this, please put in the comments what you appreciated from this video, and also anything you feel like that you want to see in the future. I would love to help any way that I can. I love learning, as that can tell you, and I look forward to continue to produce new videos. But until then, live long and prosper.